If they're looking to live with their partner, I would get a cohabitation agreement. I think that's really what it boils down to. And I see a lot of this mess right now in Toronto. Leases or moving in together or buying a property together, or if it's owned just by one of the parties, it becomes a huge mess if there's no cohabitation agreement. You want something in writing and it's very clear to the courthouse, like, is he or she contributing to rent? Are they contributing to the mortgage? What are they responsible for, right? What are the expectations, right? And if it's left to your own devices, the courts will interpret whatever they want to interpret, right? And that puts you in a very dangerous spot.
Welcome to the Ontario Homeowner Show. I'm Mohsen Lakhani, and this is the show where we get real about what it takes to own, maintain, and love your home. From renovations to raising a family, legal insights to mental health, no topic is off limits. This is about real people, real value, and real conversations to help you live better, right where you are. Each week, I sit down with trusted experts, service professionals, and local changemakers to bring you the strategies, stories, and solutions that make homeownership easier. This is the Ontario Homeowner Show, powered by Devon Real Estate Advisors. Are you ready? Let's go. Derek, thank you so much for joining us at the Ontario Homeowner Show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Mohsen. Thanks for having me.
Well, before we even get into the weeds of it all, do you want to start by telling us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how you've been helping homeowners?
Yes, of course. My name is Derek. I run my own practice. It's called Ang Law Professional Corporation. I've been serving people's demographics, all walks of life in the GTA for approximately 5 years, and not just in real estate, in other areas of law as well, as wills and estates, family law, civil, you name it.
Tell me more about that. How does that work?
Yeah, so family law really is about separation and divorce, and really it's kind of like a trifecta, right? So you'll have real estate, and then your clients need to sell, buy a house, downsize, refinance, and that's where the versatility really is, right? If you know one area of law and you know the other, it really ties into the other two, right? I can help families estate plan, right? If they're looking to save up, move into a bigger house, or they're going through a separation and they're looking to sell. These are all areas that I can assist my clients with.
Could you walk us through a situation, maybe that comes to memory right now, where you've really helped a homeowner through a tricky situation?
Yeah, so a client of mine actually reached out to me. This is actually quite recent, maybe about a week ago. She reached out to me regarding a separation, and I was like, okay, yeah, I do family law. I can help you with the separation agreement. But what I had realized was that she actually had done it herself and had her children witness it. I know it's not the greatest, and she wanted me and another lawyer to process the buyout or the sale, the title transfer, and it was just a mess. But having that background in family law really helped because I was able to guide my client through the process, explain to her her rights under the rules and obligations under the family law rules, what equalization payments, what's an acceptable spousal support amount based on her situation. But again, I'm very far removed, right? Because if I'm only acting on her behalf for her real estate transaction, I can't speak to her about the family law side. Again, advising her that she should get a family law lawyer to assist her with her separation agreement before finalizing that sale. Luckily, that she took my advice, and we got there, and she was very happy with the results.
Amazing. So all that happened last week.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, in the
Okay.
span of like a week and a half, maybe.
Interesting, because every time I think about the law, all I'm thinking is, oh my God, it's going to be so drawn out. And I'm just going to be like, save me that time. And if I'm not saving the time, I'm getting charged by the hour. So I really want to save that time.
Yeah.
So
I,
thank
I
you
think there's
for,
a common, sorry, I think there's a common misconception that it's just an hourly rate, right? A lot of lawyers, we actually do transactional, especially for real estate or like wills and estates. We do block fees as well. If we know the transaction is simple, whether it's a buy, sell, or a refinance, or even simple estate planning, right? If you're looking to have your will looked at, or you're looking to have your power of attorneys done, we do block fees.
okay. So essentially standard charges, transaction fees for a particular case. Cool. Good to know. So how does it all work if you are also, supporting a client for real estate law? And then also if let's say it's a separation that they're going through, how does that work?
If they're going through a separation, generally the first thing I ask is, do you guys have a separation agreement in place, and do you already have a family lawyer, right? If not, I would highly advise for them to seek one immediately, right? Again, because because for real estate, you can't act for a client, or you shouldn't, for their real estate matter and for their family law matter, right? Because for the family law matter, you can only act for one of the spouses. And on the real estate transaction, if they're both jointly on title, you would have to act for both of them. And that would be a conflict of interest. And that's why you would need both separately a family lawyer and a real estate lawyer. And I think that's where a lot of my clients get the mix up. And they're like, oh, but then I have to pay someone twice and I'd rather just be paying you once. Why complicate things?
Right. So if you had a choice to, let's say, pick and choose, what sort of clientele would you rather work with?
Right now, I'm looking for young adults who are somewhat ambitious, who are looking to grow wealth and really plan for generations. They want to build a legacy and leave something for their children. I think those are my favorite clients to work with. But I also do love working with seniors who also want to leave behind a nest egg for their kids.
Right. So that's where the estate planning and wills and stuff like that comes
Yeah.
into play.
And it's so important because you've worked all of your life building all of this wealth. You want to make sure, a lot of it's kept for your children.
Interesting. So let me ask you this: what moves you? What sort of legacy do you want to leave behind?
I think just the impression that Ang Law strives and to do better and to serve the community and really give back. I grew up in an underprivileged or marginalized community myself, and I didn't have very much. And it was a fluke for me to go to like university and let alone law school. I was very fortunate and I got a lot of scholarships. And it was really just by paying it forward and helping others. And a lot of my work when I did come out of law school was in legal aid and was helping marginalized communities. And really, what we strive here to do is to provide that access to justice, right? And education, try to educate our clients a little bit about estate planning and preserving wealth within the family.
Nice. Thank you so much for sharing. I have a lot of misconceptions about law in general, but could you share something that you feel needs to be addressed today and right now?
There's like small tidbits. I think one is for wills. We actually don't have mirror wills in Ontario. And that's a common misconception. That's when a
What's a
husband and
mirror
a
will?
spouse, that's when a husband and a spouse, they want to do wills and they want to make sure it looks exactly alike to one another. We actually don't have that. The United States has that, but we actually don't have that in Ontario. So nothing prohibits your wife or your husband from going to another lawyer and changing their will. They don't have to let you know anything, right? So it's you have to, when you do a joint retainer for a husband and wife, you have to be very clear. There's nothing stopping your partner from updating or changing their will and not letting you know, by the way.
Mm. So even the lawyer would not necessarily be notified.
They can go to any lawyer and have their will redone.
Mm. Very cool to know. I'll
Yeah.
be aware of that.
No.
Amazing. So it's beyond just the legalese, for example, getting contracts signed or helping people understand what those contracts are. How else are you supporting your clients or potential clients?
I think it's the transparency and the ease of access that my firm brings to the clients as well. I know a lot of big law firms, it's you have to take time out of your 9 to 5 to go meet with your lawyer. We do everything from the comfort of your own home, right? And we
Right.
work those odd
Amazing.
hours as well, just so we can, you know, help alleviate some of that stress that our clients are already facing from the 9 to 5 jobs, right? And we try to make it as easy as possible, right? So we no longer use that super old hieroglyphic, very difficult to understand legalese. We break everything down into plain, simple English.
Love it.
And we explain everything 100% every step of the way to our clients, so we're on the same page. It's almost like we're on a team. We're on the same team, and we're just helping each other get to where we want to be.
Nice. I think the biggest issue that I've had with our clients is the lawyer said something. Can you please call them to find out what they were saying? Right. And I'm like, technically, I can't. It's privileged info, right? So it becomes a bit of a hassle when it's okay. Let me be the translator when I'm clearly, as a real estate agent, I'm clearly not able to be that person who can explain the law. So thank you. I commend you for creating that transparency for your clients because that in its own is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, I think the common misconception is for a lot of first-time home buyers, they don't know the process, right? And
Mm.
right off the bat, I advise my clients, like, hey, so these are my legal fees and these are disbursements. And what disbursements are is costs or money that I have to spend to help you give effect to your transaction. It's money that I pay to the government. It's money that I pay to the bank, right? It's not money that I earn myself, but I have to pay these fees so I can help you register your mortgage, or I can help register your name on deed for title. And it's the same
Okay.
thing with the divorce as well. My clients will always come up to me and ask me, like, oh, Derek, why is the divorce so expensive? I'm like, my fee is this. By the way, the government asks for a filing fee of $669. And that's not money that I'm making. It's a disbursement. That's the court filing fee.
Right. So I guess the age-old advice of, hey, getting married is cheaper, getting out of it is not, holds true
It's
universally.
quite expensive. Again, it depends if you're throwing a wedding and how lavish you want it to be. I think separating is quite expensive if you haven't. And again, this is from a very privileged perspective now. A lot of folks who are quite well off, they'll have, their family or friends, they'll have family friends who are lawyers, right? And they will advise them, hey, before you get married, you might want to look at a prenup.
Hmm. Interesting. So either know that getting married is cheaper and getting out of it is not, or have family friends or lawyers.
I mean, it's not accessible for everybody, but I think a quick Google search will show, and I guess that's why I'm on your podcast here now. It is to educate people and advise that, hey, like having a will done, will save you thousands down the line, and having a marriage contract, or even speaking with a family law lawyer, right? And we offer free consults here.
Amazing. So speaking about, writing up a will, what does that mean? How does that work? And what happens if a family does not have a will in place?
So this was like the golden question during the era of COVID. So if you don't have a will, what's going to happen is when somebody passes away, you're looking to apply to the courthouse for probate without a will. And this will just take, I want to say, more than a year. Yeah, for the courts to figure everything out. Your application is going to be a lot more convoluted and a lot more complex. You have to notify all of the beneficiaries. You're applying to become the estate trustee. It's a lot more work, and your legal fees are going to be a lot higher. Whereas if you had a will, and you have a lawyer, they would help you essentially file the will with the courthouse, commence an application to probate with a will, and you have instructions on the will how the estate is going to be dispersed.
Mm.
It's clear instructions, and there's no room for doubt in the court's eyes, and everything moves relatively quickly. And I would say it probably cuts down the time in half by half.
Wow.
So you're looking at maybe 6 months instead, 3 to 4 months if the courthouse isn't too busy. But I would say on average, maybe 6 months.
It's on hybrid. Okay. So the issue with this, in my opinion, is you might still have a will, but if it's not being recognized or if somebody's contesting that, what happens then?
It's up to all of the beneficiaries, and you'll be put on notice once somebody's probating a will. Um, if they disperse it and you're not happy with how they're administering the estate, you always have your opportunity or your due diligence in court, to kind of challenge or contest the will. And it's either you negotiate directly with the estate trustee, or you take it to court if you guys aren't able to communicate effectively.
Hmm. So let's say that a family who's had a will created a few years ago, maybe even a decade ago, now they're thinking about possibly retiring or downsizing or maybe upsizing or finding another space to call home. Should they go in and is there like another, hey, I want to come in and update my will, or what does that mean? How does that work?
Yeah, by all means, reach out to lawyers in your local neighborhood. They're more than happy, I think, to update your will or suggest maybe a secondary will if you have a business, right? So there's a bunch of, it's kind of like there's no one shoe size that fits all. It's kind of like we tailor it to your needs.
Mm, okay, interesting. So every person essentially would there might be general advice that could be applicable to everybody, but on a case by case scenario, that legal advice, if I may say, will differ.
Yeah, I think it's worth its weight in gold when you look at the estate administration tax and like the headache, right?
Tell me about that estate planning process. How does that work?
I think really you're sitting down with a lawyer and you're going through an intake form, and really you're listing out all of your assets and your liabilities and your children, your next of kin, your family members, your siblings, right? And really you're directing if you have any personal properties you'd like to gift anybody, real estate, like who's going to handle what, if you have stocks, investments. This is all, disclosed to your lawyer, and there are very specific directions in your will as to which accounts will go where, what was going to be invested. And ultimately, it's going to be at the discretion of your estate trustee. But if you have specific instructions about certain properties, they have to adhere or follow that. And if it's not, again, one of the beneficiaries can challenge that, right? So it's really just sitting down, understanding the family dynamics, and explaining to the family like what makes the most sense. I have a lot of clients, and once their children grows old, some of them relocate to the United States, right? And I think it's changed, but back in the day, if you jointly appointed estate trustees, they would both have to fly back to Canada and be physically present at the bank to sign
Yeah,
documents. Yeah, right. Just to have access to some of the accounts, right?
crazy.
And one of the things I advise my clients is if you really want both, appoint them jointly and severally. So as long as the other consents, they don't have to be there for the bank signing or whatever it may be.
Hmm. Good to know. As we continue talking about estate planning, what do you feel is the biggest detriment? Is it the lack of planning for the estate
I
or
think it's just like a
not
lack
planning
of
enough?
knowledge. It really is. It's really like an engine to preserve wealth within the family, right? Because if you're calculating capital gains, it's really just about paying as little tax dollars as you can to be quite honest with you. And once I pitch it to my clients like that, they're all ears, right? And if you have specific intentions, like if you have a child and maybe they're not as well off in life, or maybe they have a disability, maybe the home is for them to grow up in, right? Or you want to leave something behind.
Well, so tell me more. I think you're getting into like the trust aspect of it or joint ownership. Any other strategies you can possibly share how that would work? Survivorship, essentially.
Yeah, so if you have a property and it's in your name only and you would like to leave it to I don't know, your younger child, and you don't want it to be sold, then you can definitely have it put into a trust. And if they don't have legal capacity, that's something you can definitely have maybe the older son do, right? So if they would hold legal title, but the youngest son would have equitable title, right? And they would be able to live there and enjoy the property, and the elder child can take care of all of the expenses and whatnot.
Hmm. Okay. What's something parents can do today to make sure that their children are not really left in a legal mess?
Ooh, that's a really good question. From the family law aspect, I think if they're looking to live with their partner and it's not a lease. Well, even if it is a lease, I would get a cohabitation agreement. I think that's really what it boils down to. And I see a lot of this mess right now in Toronto. Leases or moving in together or buying a property together, or if it's owned just by one of the parties, it becomes a huge mess if there's no cohabitation agreement. You want something in writing, and it's very clear to the courthouse, like, is he or she contributing to rent? Are they contributing to the mortgage? What are they responsible for, right? What are the expectations, right? And if it's left to your own devices, the courts will interpret whatever they want to interpret, right? And that puts you in a very dangerous spot.
Mm. I feel like if I was to have a co-ab agreement with my spouse or my partner, they might get offended, right? But at the end of the day, it's not about offending one party or the other. It's more about protecting maybe my children's interest,
Yeah,
making sure
it's
that
about
they're
protecting your
well taken
family,
care
your interests, and your partner as well, right? It's
of.
about laying everything on the table. And I heard, Derek, how do I make this talk about cohabitation agreements or marriage contracts sexy, right? And I think if you educate one another about the topic, and you're like, hey, I want to make sure you're well off and you're protected if anything ever happens to me, right? Like if I was the primary breadwinner, and I have an estate and we had children, or you know what I mean, I want to make sure there's
Mm.
money left over for my spouse or my partner.
Okay, good to know. Anything else you'd like to add for our listeners today? Something that could really help them on along their journey of homeownership.
Yeah, I think just don't be afraid to reach out to your lawyer. I think a lot of us are more than happy to hop on a quick call. We offer free consults, and we're more than happy to answer any questions. And so it's really just a casual conversation that I generally have with my friends, and I don't even know they need legal assistance generally. And we're out for dinner, and all of a sudden I'm just like, hey, wait, that's a red flag. I should be helping my friend up with this situation. It's kind of like the analogy is kind of like going to your doctor when it's too late, right?
Mm.
If you speak with your lawyer or somebody who has a legal background, they may be able to diagnose something before it becomes a much bigger problem. And that's what these
Right.
prenups, that's what these marriage contracts, and that's what these wills all do. They help save money within your family, and they help you build generational wealth.
Amazing. Thank you. What's the difference between a power of attorney for property and then power of attorney for personal care? And why are they just as important as let's say, having a will in place?
So a will takes place after you pass away. If anything were to ever happen to you and you were left in a vegetative state or you had no requisite mental capacity, that's when a power of attorney would come into play. It's essentially a living will, right? If you had a daughter or a sister that you really trust to make those, medical decisions on your behalf, whether or not you're going to have surgery that affects, your life, right?
Mm,
So that's the power of attorney for personal care. They get to make sure which hospitals you're admitted to, if you're in long-term care, if they resuscitate you, right? And power of attorney for property is if you wanted to retire abroad, right? You can either make it a continuing power of attorney, with which, if anything were ever to happen to you, they would be able to access your bank accounts, pay your utility bills on your behalf, right? But also, if you're looking to retire abroad, you can make it just a power of attorney, and they have access to specific bank accounts. They can help you sell your car, right?
mm. Okay, cool. Finally, Derek, to you, what does it mean to be a Ontario homeowner?
Um, I think we're in a very precarious situation. It's not just about building wealth. It's about building a home and a legacy to leave behind.
Amazing. Wow. Derek, thank you so much for your time today. How can people get in touch with you?
So they can reach me at anglawpc.com. We have a pre-populated form where you can enter your name and your email address, and you can schedule an appointment for your free consult there.
Amazing. Folks, that's a wrap on this episode of the Ontario Homeowner Show. Now, I don't know what resonated with you the most, but here's what I hope you took away. The guests we bring on the show are doing the real work. They're the real change makers, making real life better, one home, one family, one conversation at a time. If that's something you want more of, hit subscribe wherever you're listening. New episodes drop every week. And if you want the highlights, tools, and guest takeaways straight into your inbox, go to ontariohomeownershow.ca and leave us your name and email. Thank you for listening in. Until I see you next time, take care.